Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
2017 was the weirdest year since, at least 2016, and no more so than for Jeremy Corbyn. He started the election campaign treated as something of a joke. He had no chance, it was said, and was more proof that Britain would never sign up to that kind of lefty programme. And then something changed. The pundit said that Theresa May bungled things. But when you look at how the polls changed, it was not so much that old people deserted her on social care, for example. What changed was that young people swarmed to Labour, and Jeremy Corbyn in particular. So is a left-wing platform a winner now? Well, as the year ends, there are two views, that he's now a credible Prime Minister in waiting who'll probably win the next election, or that he should be doing much better given the way the Tories are doing. Let's have a look back at his year. So how did he go from this to this?
What happened with the general election? We had an opportunity for 600,000 people to get involved and use their voice to persuade people and have genuine conversations about politics, and that's what people did.
It wasn't just a fiction of the mainstream media that Corbyn was a loser. When it came to the local elections in England, he was a loser.
A very bad night for Labour.
Thank you so much for coming.
His party was unsure about him too.
No one can ignore the issue of leadership. I mean, it would be fatuous to do so, and I don't think anyone, I hope, is suggesting that it wasn't an issue on the doorstep.
All in all, this could have been his annus horribilis. But in the election campaign, something shifted. One sign was that he was out and about in all the wrong places, seats that were never meant to go Labour. Did he not understand that's a waste of his time? Well, in the end, many of them did swing his way.
I hereby declare that Emma Dent Coad has been duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the Kensington constituency.
In 2017, Jeremy Corbyn basically rewrote the rules, refreshing the voters that other politicians couldn't reach. He wouldn't welcome the comparison, but in a way you could say he pulled off a trump. An authentic political outsider, promising change, never hides his beliefs, always says what he thinks, performs well against an establishment insider whose message often doesn't come across as quite genuine. But Mr. Corbyn did something else in the election. He made some generous, almost populist policy promises that appealed to key groups.
Labour will end the cuts in the National Health Service. Labour will scrap tuition fees. Labour will take our railways back into public ownership and put passengers first.
Austerity-fatigued voters seemed happy to be told the good news, even if mainstream experts thought it might be more difficult than presented.
Corbyn's team are presenting some things as simple, which almost certainly are not going to be. One of them is a great increase in public spending, which they want to do. Now, that is very simple and might indeed fairly simply lead to an improvement in some public services, some areas of health or education, if the fact that national debt would go up as a result didn't bring its own complications too.
So how do we explain Mr. Corbyn's appeal? Is it the policies, the direction, or the man?
I think Jeremy's great. He's kind of a nice, honest human who talks to people on a genuine level and understands where people are coming from. But it's not about Jeremy Corbyn. It is about the politics and the policies.
I'll be back very soon.
We can find evidence on one question: whether it's possible to argue that Britain has taken a decisive move to the left. Surveys just after the 2015 and 2017 elections asked people to place themselves on a 10-point scale where left is 0 and right is 10. The average position only moved from 5.1 to 5.0. We're hardly all Corbynites now.
I don't think that the centre has shifted. I think the electorate itself has changed shape a little bit. And of course, one of the shocks from the election was that so many more young people who hadn't previously bothered to vote, turned out to vote.
Well, for 2018, the big question in British politics is whether the Corbyn surge can continue. As he gathers more support, does he look more credible and thus gather more support? Or has he reached the limits of his appeal?
It's really hard to see how either party can win an overall majority against this backdrop, because I think you've got half the electorate basically rejecting Labour and what it stands for, and the other half rejecting the Tories.
And so it's Marmite politics at the moment.
It's completely Marmite politics, yes.
Of course, Mr Corbyn has surprised us this year. We've seen him perform in ways that mainstream pundits did not expect. Is 2018 the year that the next great, once unthinkable political earthquake occurs that sees a Prime Minister Corbyn enter number 10?
Showtime. Let's go.
Well, I met up earlier to talk about Labour's year and next year with the Shadow Home Secretary, Diane Abbott, and I asked her what the critics of Jeremy Corbyn, who'd written him off earlier in the year, had got wrong about him.
The thing that commentators got wrong is they existed in a bubble. They were talking to other MPs, they weren't talking to real people. And when the election was actually launched, for the first time, because of election coverage rules, Jeremy got much more balanced coverage in terms of the time. For the first time, they actually heard about our manifesto, which proved to be very popular. But the other important thing was this. We were really effective in using social media to get around what mainstream media was saying. And the stats show that people that get most of their political information from online and social media, mostly young people in fact, were far more likely to vote for us.
I mean, what do you think about authenticity in politics now? Because some people have said there was something about Corbyn that just he looked more comfortable in his own skin than Theresa May did in the election. Is it fair to say that the old techniques of political communication have proved to be a bit futile at the moment, and you basically have to be yourself? Maybe Donald Trump proves the same point, I don't know.
Well, it would be ludicrous to compare Jeremy with Donald Trump. Donald Trump appeals to the direct opposite group of people, and Donald Trump appeals to fear and Jeremy appeals to hope. But it is true that Jeremy is comfortable with himself. He knows what he believes. He doesn't have to read an opinion poll to tell him what he believes. And that's why he won the leadership of the Labour Party, not once, but twice. And that's why he was able to do so well in the general election.
Interesting absence of evidence, though, that Britain has actually swung to the left. So would you accept that it's not the case Corbyn has, if you like, made a left-leaning argument to the British people and persuaded them that that is the way to go?
Truth to tell, our manifesto was not some extremist left manifesto. Were we a Scandinavian country, our manifesto would have been seen as a quite middle-of-the-road social democratic manifesto. What is true, though, is we've altered the debate. You've got Tory MPs talking about austerity, complaining about austerity. That never happened before. And you've got the Tory party look at issues of student finance. On a range of issues, we have genuinely changed the nature of the debate.
At the moment, we have a government's performance has been ragged over the last few months. Many people are saying it's bizarre that the opposition, the official opposition, is most polls about 1 or 2 points ahead of this government. Are you thinking, as we look at where Labour is now, this is great, we're ahead in the polls? Or are you thinking, yeah, actually, it ought to be 15 or 20 points ahead, given what the government's doing?
The people complaining that we're not far enough ahead are the same people who said the Labour Party would be annihilated under the current leadership. I'm the person who over a year ago said that we would narrow the 20-point gap in the opinion polls, and I said we'd do it within 12 months. In fact, we did it within 6 months, and I'm the person telling you that we are going to move ahead of this government steadily and surely as next year unfolds.
Yeah, it has been a year of kind of particularly vituperative dialogue and anger, and you've suffered enormously under that this year. Have you ever felt like you want to just jack it all in?
It's been difficult. I think it's 45% of the abusive tweets sent to MPs came to me. But not just difficult for me, difficult for my staff who have to open all the letters, because it's not just online, it's letters and so on.
Do you read the stuff, or do you just...
I don't read all of it, but my staff have to read it all. And my staff have to go online and look at Twitter, because that's how we communicate with people. And it's been horrible for them. But I would say that I have had a lot of support as well from people in Hackney who've been really lovely. They could see I was under terrible attack, not just from online, but from mainstream media. Everywhere I went, they'd stop me and say, "We think you're doing a really good job, carry on." And that was very positive. I also got a lot of support nationally, cards and letters. So it was tough, but I got support.
2018, what are your hopes and fears for 2018 then?
We are going to move decisively above the Tories in the opinion poll. Just as I said we would eliminate the gap, we're going to move decisively forward, and I'm confident about that. And, the Tories are in a state. Their negotiations are a shambles. Last week they couldn't even get their legislation to the House of Commons, so it may well be that 2018 will see a general election.
Diane Abbott, thank you very much indeed. Thanks.